I'm not being called to leave yet. And maybe my place is to be here, and maybe my place is to, work with the community that I'm a part of. I don't know yet. I'm living in the moment, so who knows?
Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum. And the media overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output. But very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time: cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the grand solar minimum? Then join me for Mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David Dubine. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on this planet. I have Kate Hart, the Radical Gardener, with me. You can find her work at radicalgardener.net, katehart.com. So true, and intuitively you're going to get these messages, and sometimes they do come in an instant, or people just make the instant change and they decide to do something on a whim or turn on a dime, but then they turn out that, by taking that chance, most people live in fear and go, no, I'm so stable here, I can't do this. But people who change on a dime, a lot of times, fortune favors the brave. And you do get these messages when they're right. Yeah, when they come, they come, and people act on them or they don't act on them.
You are so right. I mean, the more that you're plugged into that intuitive voice and you listen to it, boy, the payoffs are just stellar. I wanted to get out of Michigan so bad. That was like 2000. When was that? I don't know, 1977. And I just drove until the water stopped me. I ended up in Seattle. I just wanted out of here. The gangs were going on. Detroit was really on a downhill slide. And I wanted to be in nature. I always wanted to be living where it was beautiful. And so I went to Seattle, and I'm telling you, I was in Seattle one day and I ended up in one of the most popular bands in the area. I mean, it was just all uphill. The minute I hit, my foot hit the ground in Seattle, I was off and running. And then in 2002, this inner voice would not stop. It says, get out of here, get out of here, get out of Seattle. You got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. And I drove my husband insane. And, we were on our way to Florida. He had a job fall through, and we ended up in Michigan. And the minute we hit Michigan, we were on fire. We had jobs. My band ended up with 28 Detroit Music Awards within a year and a half. It was crazy. I was running to keep up. So from my experience, I know it's just always going to be fine. It's going to be what it is. And I could have planned all I want, but it had nothing to do with what was actually going to happen. And because I stayed open into that intuitive voice, it really, really did me right. It really did.
And I'll come and follow up with a point on that, because I get so many messages across my board and private emails asking me, where's the safe place on the planet? Where can I move to? Where's the place where it's still going to be warm and you can grow food? Again, I don't have an answer, because everybody else is going to be migrating with you or trying to find the same thing. People are going to be acting out of fear, not acting out of what you talk about, intuition of finding the right spot for everybody. So if I tell you or give you a recommendation to go to, Myanmar, because it's warm down there and they're only growing half the area that they could grow food, perhaps that's not the right place to be for people. It's going to be different for everybody. I mean, the solutions that we're coming up with, when you take a look at Chris Thoreau and what they're doing out there with shipping containers in cold weather environments around Vancouver and further northern parts of Canada, they're growing basil in the middle of winter with just a basic rudimentary shipping container that they've retrofitted.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
there's
amazing.
so many solutions out there. It's not going to be a one thing fits all. There's all these solutions that are going to come out. So perhaps in really cold weather areas, we can still continue to have a bountiful crop, but we're just going to do it in a different way.
Right. I think, too, is what I'm doing is I'm really focusing on my health. So I've been working with an experiment with, well, not really experimenting, but I've been taking C60, and I've been taking that for 4 months. And I've just added my music, where I'm using my music to really, bump up the effects of C60. And it's been pretty incredible, the results that I've seen. I mean, I could just go on and on, like age spots have disappeared and moles have fallen off, and no physical pain. It's been remarkable. And so, if we've got remedies like this coming on board, and that, where we can increase longevity, and I'm excited. I'm just really excited. I'm finding a lot of solutions on my own, and I just think once we all come together and start sharing information, it'll be really exciting for all of us.
Yeah, and it's going to be, as we move into this grand solar minimum too, there are going to be some breaks in the supply chain, absolutely. And this has been one of the things that if you go back in history and you find, specifically on the Dalton minimum, we thought it was pretty good. They had steamships at the time, and it was pretty well connected at that time in the world. I mean, they didn't have airplanes, the roads weren't there with automobiles, but it was still, comparatively to what we'd had in the last couple thousand years, it was the most connected and the fastest, speediest transportation, especially with steamships, Right. At that time, they found the same thing, that in the grand solar minimum, the supply chain channels broke down, ports were iced in, other things weren't delivered. There was a break here, something wasn't packed there, and ships were running, and they actually stopped some ships from running in different places. So if we see this happening, we know that in the modern minimum, the same exact thing happened, although this is more land transport with the breakdown in the supply chain, if you will, back then. We're going to see supply chain disruptions again during this new grand solar minimum, so you're going to be more responsible for finding your own.
That's right.
Yeah, health benefit or food supplies or medical supplies, whatever it might be. Could be everything from boots to clothes, anything. But you're going to be more responsible for finding substitutes because there are going to be breaks. And, these super high-tech medicines that are manufactured in one single company by one single company, if that goes down, that's whole supply of that medicine dries up. So you're going to need to look at alternatives as well in the future, just for your own well-being. You're going to have to do a lot of substitution coming up, and that includes grains, medicines, etc.
So I've gotten very good at it. I know what's wrong with me. If something goes wrong, I know what it is. I usually know what to do about it now. But, I have been around it, since I was a very little girl. My mother was really interested in this stuff. But, I've gotten very good at self-diagnosis. And again, that intuitiveness, I'm pretty sure that this is what it probably is. And you know what? I'm always right. So, yeah, we have to learn to take care of ourselves. I mean, who wants to hand their health over to a stranger? I sure as hell don't, and so if you use that intuitive voice and just read up on some basic things, just like you were saying, like one of the most basic is look at your iodine, look at your minerals. It's really basic stuff.